So I want to go ahead and talk about the work of leadership. Our individual who's very well known in leadership at Harvard University is Ronald Heifetz. And he has kind of wrote a book, an article to be exact, on the work of leadership. And he has kind of talked about some thoughts that I wanted to kind of go ahead and share. You know, well, as leaders, one of the things we have to first look at is that, he reminds us to get on the balcony, because it's so important that, we want to make sure that we're looking at our organization from the top. And sometimes we need to be on the dance floor too, right? We need to be on the field. But but the idea is on the field, sometimes you're just looking at a specific area. So it's so important as leaders, we step back and look at it from the balcony or from the stands. That way you get to see the whole field, or you get to see the whole organization. You get to see all the individuals and then seeing why things are going the way they are. So it's so important to be on both sides of it, at the ground level, on the field, on the floor, but also at the balcony or the stands. Because this way it gives you a better understanding of everything in the system that you are at your school or at your business. So I think that's so important to kind of keep in mind, to always have that process. Number two is to identify the adaptive challenges, right? Adaptive challenges are not those concrete, black and white technical kind of skills, right? They are those soft skills that you would need, like things that might be affecting the environment, the stakeholders, that always, every day could be changing up and down. So it's so important as leaders, we need to make sure that understanding some of those concerns that might happen, the environmental factors, the stakeholder factors, and in keeping those in things and seeing who they are, looking what's happening in the world and if that could affect us. So from a school's perspective, hey, what's happening in the neighborhood? What's happening regarding the state or the funding or the community? Things that could affect that would play a big part. Just like if you're in a business, right? The economy, the job, the resources, the weather, all these things play a big part in how it could affect your organization. So it's so important to keep that in mind. Number three is to regulate distress, right? To regulate distress is to making sure that when there are concerns, that giving an opportunity for employees to express their concerns. Sometimes you have to debate it out, having those conversations, but in a safe environment to kind of go ahead and let things out. Because if they don't have an access to express themselves, it's going to happen is they're going to build up and they're going to talk to others. And the way you're going to find out is at the end, and you don't have an opportunity to go ahead and fix it. So it's so important to make sure that if you're an educator principal, having your department meetings, letting them not just always talk about this is what we have to do, but also what are some of the concerns that we have, and let them also share, so you could look at ways to kind of go ahead and develop and find answers for some of those concerns that they have, or they just need to just go ahead and vent it out. All right, and then when you do let people share their things, is to then provide the direction and key issues. So you want to make sure that, hey, after this, what were the one or two concerns? Restate them, figure them out, list them, so that way they know you've heard them, but you also know what weird steps that we're going to go ahead and to move forward. The fourth factor is maintaining that disciplined attention, right? You want to make sure that they are an opportunity for them to kind of focus on, now this is where the areas that we're going to work on, from adaptive challenges to what the school goals were, to some of the concerns that they brought up, and saying, okay, making sure that we don't lose track, put timelines on them, and in that way we could go ahead and move forward. The other thing is give the work back to the employees, right? Giving them opportunities to make sure and say, hey, like, run with it. I'm giving you guys, thanks for sharing. Here's the framework. These are the guidelines we want to go through. This is how we want to move forward. And giving them an opportunity to run with it, and that way they feel a part of it. So as a school factor, and say, hey, look, these are some of the goals that we have, or here's the curriculum we're going to be using, but here's an opportunity for you to kind of put your own little personal touch to it. That goes a long way. So I think it's so important in any of the businesses to giving them these opportunities where they themselves feel like they are part of it as employees, and then that work is for them after all these conversations have happened. And then the last thing is, it's so important when we kind of talk about letting them share their concerns, is a key factor in this work of leadership is to protect the leaders' voices from below. So if people tell you, your teacher department heads, or your teacher representative, or your vice principal tells you something, or your project manager tells you something, or your other associates are telling you something, for them to tell you cannot be a factor where they feel like, wow, if I told them, that's making me now feel like I am now going to lose my position or my support. So you have to protect their voices, the good and the bad, because if not, they're never going to tell you anything, because they know, like, you know what, you take this personal. So it's so important that you need to protect those voices, because if they realize that food chain, when it comes up, but it's not really received very well, that's going to be problematic. So these are certain things just to kind of keep in mind that from the article, which has a lot of details, but just some small things I felt that were things that we could all kind of keep in mind and share, and to help us become more successful as leaders. Hopefully these were somewhat beneficial. Thank you so much.
We are honored to say this video is sponsored by Amana Mutual Funds. Amana Mutual Funds favors companies with low price to earnings multiples, strong balance sheets, and proven businesses. They follow a value-oriented approach consistent with Islamic finance principles. Start investing in a pure way today with Amana Mutual Funds.